FreeLightroomTutorials.com. Easy to follow, easy to learn, designed to inspire.
Hey everyone, my name is Matthew Schonable from FreeLightroomTutorials.com. In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about split toning and how to do split toning, what split toning is, and how you can effectively use it in your photos to get some really amazing looks. So if you see the picture here from a wedding I shot last year, pretty quirky couple, a lot of fun. Obviously this is the bride, one of her bridesmaids, but essentially we're applying split toning to this image. And what I mean by that is if I toggle the split toning panel off and on, this is what the image looks like without split toning, and this is what the image looks like with split toning. So split toning essentially it's a type of color correction where essentially you can apply different kinds of hues, of colors, to your highlights and your shadows. So in Lightroom, it's sort of like color grading. Brandy, this tutorial is for Brandy at one of my Facebook groups, and Brandy actually asked the question, what is split toning and how does it work? And also she requested color grading. Color grading is more so for movies where you apply a sort of a color concept to the whole image, where split toning you can specifically affect just the highlights or just the shadows with two different colors like in this image, or you can do the same color and affect your image in many different ways. So a lot of types of photography that will use split toning will be like matted looks or different vintage looks. We'll use split toning. You can use it in black and white and affect your grayscale, your tonals that way. There are lots of different things we can do, but essentially split toning is just affecting the highlights and the shadows in your images. Essentially doing it through adding different colors to affect the tones of your highlights or your shadows. So if I look at this image here, and basically if I go on the right hand side in the split toning panel, you see two things, highlights and shadows, meaning I can affect, currently in this image, I'm affecting or putting a color tone of this color, this browny orange, to the highlights, and in the shadows I'm doing a purpley tone, which is like this, and I'm applying this purpley tone to the shadows. Now you notice that there are a couple different bars as well. There's the saturation and the balance. Well, the saturation is how much of the hue or the color you're going to apply to, let's say, the highlights. So essentially in this image here, I'm applying 42% of that specific color, or 42 represents the color number essentially, but essentially I'm applying 58% saturation of that color to the image. So if I increase the color, it goes more orange, right, or more yellow, because we're applying more of that color to the image. And if I do the exact opposite and reduce it, now obviously the color's not even being used at all, so the saturation is 0. So if I put it back to approximately where it was, now if I do look at the shadows, the same idea, meaning the shadows, the same idea. Basically the hue, this number represents the actual hue number, and obviously the purple is in the 260 range, and the saturation just refers to how much of that color we're applying to the shadows. So if I increase it, it goes weird purple, and it's only being applied to the shadows, not to the highlights, right? Because this section right now, we're applying this color only to the shadows. And if I go back down to 0, obviously it removes it completely. So all you're doing is playing with a large range of different colors that will blend together in the highlights and the shadows to give you different looks. It's really interesting, actually. You can get some really, really complex looks. So for example, if I want to keep my highlights the same and adjust my shadows, I can make the image look really yellow or really affect it in a different way. It really comes down to personal preference. Now, there are lots of different ways that you can affect color in your photos, and one way to do that as well is this balance tab in the very center. So what the balance tab does is it allows you to balance or influence one of the colors more than the other. So right now at 0, it's using exactly what we've represented here as what we want, meaning right now at 0, it's using 61% of the highlight color and 31% of the shadow color. If I go to the left, it allows more of the shadows to come in, and more of the right, more of the highlights to come in. So really, the options are endless. You can do whatever you want. I mean, like, there are tremendous options for creative perspective here. So if I turn the toning off, this is what the image looks like, and it looks sort of greeny blue. It's not amazing, but essentially with the split toning turned on, I get a really beautiful soft look. It's almost like a pastel look. Now, if I look at a different image here, this image has split toning applied to it, and I find a great combination that usually works well for my eye that I love is a bit of warmth in the highlights and some cool in the shadows, and that just sort of a look that really applies and works well for me. If I turn this off, this is what the image looks like based off what it's been processed as. If I apply the split toning, it really gives you a different look. It really affects the image in a dramatic way, whereas this is much cooler, much more of an old film look, whereas this is much more of a different warmth in the film look, let's say. And obviously another example here, split toning can be great for when you've got a sun flare or a really bright spot in your photo, because you can enhance that sun by enhancing what the highlights look like. So for example, if I turn the split toning off in this image looks a bit blue, meaning by default, if I wanted to warm it up without split toning, I would have to go up here to my white balance, increase my white balance, and basically make the image warmer that way. But what's happening is it's increasing the warmth of the whole image, meaning the shadows, the highlights, everything. Every tone is being warmed. There's a warm white balance being affected to the whole image, which is not what I want. I actually only want to influence and make that sun look a little more warm. In order to do that, you can go to the split toning panel and actually just make this highlight in the top left hand side more warm, and it won't affect the shadow the same way. So for example, if I want to, I've already chosen a color, but essentially if I want to make it more prominent, there you go. Every highlight that is warm or every highlight that's in the image gets increased. And essentially split toning is just a way to control what you're doing more specifically, meaning in Lightroom, there's always more than one way to do the same thing. There's always 2 or 3 ways to do the same thing, meaning hypothetically, if I want to change my colors or increase my colors, well, I can add vibrance. But the problem is if I add vibrance, it applies it to the whole image. Well, that's one way to change color. I can also go down to my HSL panel and specifically affect the different hues of different colors, meaning I can affect the orange to be more red or more yellow. That's another way to do it, another way to affect color. And the third way or fourth way, let's say, is to add saturation of a specific color. And the fifth way would be using luminance. So the concept I want to apply here is Lightroom gives you a large array or many different tools to do the same thing, and the different tools will have different degrees of ability of how much they affect the image. So split toning is just allowing you to specifically control the highlights and the shadows at different times to get the colors you want. In general, you can do some beautiful things with your photos, and at the end of the day, photography is an art. It's always been an art, but now with the digital world, it really is an art. The core of still capturing a beautiful photo, the base of the photo is still extremely important, but now you can do so much more than people could do in the past with what you're doing with your editing, essentially. So in general, Brandy, hopefully that helped you out and give you a bit of insight into split toning and how it works. You can really do a ton of different things. This is a quick tutorial answering your question a bit, and if you have any more questions, please ask. Send me an email at freelightroomtutorials.com. Go on the website, send it through the support page. If not, go on my Facebook page and ask me there, or go to our Facebook group, being Free Lightroom Tutorials, Free Lightroom Presets and Tutorials. Essentially, there's another Facebook group that we have there as well, where you can ask questions, and I can post videos and respond and teach you everything I know and explain as much as I can. So thanks again. My name is Matthew Shonwell from freelightroomtutorials.com. This was a how to use a split toning in a photo in Lightroom. Thanks again. Have a great day, guys.
FreeLightroomTutorials.com. Easy to follow, easy to learn, designed to inspire.